Are you feeling stuck in your business? Like you're just not getting the growth you know you're capable of? Well, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to build a blueprint for real breakthrough growth, not just tiny little changes. Let's dive in. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Does this feel familiar? You are putting in more hours, you're hustling like crazy, but the results, they just aren't scaling with your effort. If you're nodding along, you're not alone. And that feeling, it's a huge signal that your approach needs a serious overhaul. There's actually a name for this wall that so many of us hit. It's called the ceiling of complexity. It's that point where your business has outgrown its own systems. You're completely maxed out, and it feels like the only way to get ahead is to just work more and more and more. But that, my friends, is a trap. It's not a strategy. But what if I told you that breaking through that ceiling is totally possible? This isn't just some theory. Look at this. This is a real-world result from a loan advisor named Alex, who was completely trapped. By putting a new plan in place, Alex didn't just grow the business by a massive 65%. They did it while actually working less. That is the goal. So, how do we get you there? Well, we're going to follow a simple 4-part framework. First, we're going to start with your why. Then, we'll look back at the past year to move forward. After that, we'll get into the nuts and bolts, the actual blueprint for growth. And finally, we'll talk about why you can't and shouldn't do it alone. All right, section 1. Let's start with the absolute foundation of everything, your why. And listen, this isn't some fluffy corporate mission statement that you hang on a wall. This is the raw fuel. This is the engine that's going to drive you on those tough days when you don't feel like getting out of bed. Man, this quote from Jim Rohn just hits home, doesn't it? Think about it. We spend weeks, sometimes months, planning a 7-day vacation, down to the minute. But our lives, our careers, we often just let them drift. And he nails the reason why. Because planning a real, meaningful change is hard. It forces us to ask the big questions. So this brings us to Simon Sinek's famous golden circle. And I want you to really look at the difference here. On the left, you've got the flawed approach. It's how most people operate. They start with what they do. Then they figure out how to do it. And maybe, just maybe, they get to why they do it. The truly powerful approach flips that completely on its head. You start with why. You start with your purpose. And that purpose informs everything else. Here's what a real why sounds like. It's personal. It's emotional. Take this story about an Aflac agent. Her what? Was selling insurance policies. Pretty straightforward, right? But her why? Her why was to make sure that no other family ever had to feel the kind of financial pain her family went through after her dad had an accident. Now that is a purpose. That's a fire that will never go out. Okay, on to our second section. Before we can build a map for the future, we have to get really honest about where we are right now. This isn't about beating yourself up over mistakes. It's about being a detective and finding the clues from your past year that will unlock your future growth. I want you to try a super simple but incredibly powerful exercise. Seriously, grab a piece of paper, draw a line right down the middle. On the left side, I want you to list everything from last year that gave you energy. The wins, the activities, the people. And on the right side, list everything that drained your battery. Getting this down on paper, it's going to give you a crazy amount of clarity. Now, let's get a bit more strategic and look at the 3 core levers in your business. First, your personal brand. When people think of you, what do they think? Second, your pipeline. Do you have a consistent flow of business, or is it a roller coaster? And third, your people. Are the partners and vendors you work with lifting you up or holding you back? Be honest. And of course, the classic SWOT analysis. There's a reason this tool has been around forever. It just works. When you honestly write down your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, you're taking all those vague feelings in your gut and turning them into a concrete map that you can actually use. All right, this is where the rubber meets the road. We've got our why dialed in, we've reviewed the past, and now it is time to build the actual blueprint. This is where we turn all that reflection into a concrete, no excuses plan for the next 12 months. So here's a really key insight. You need to understand the duality of your business. In real estate, for example, listings are what give you leverage. They build your brand and multiply your time. Buyers, on the other hand, give you momentum. They create cash flow and activity. So what are those 2 sides of the coin for you? A great plan has clear, separate goals for both. Here's a simple little planning hack that is an absolute game changer. When you're setting your annual goals, I want you to divide them by 50, not 52. Why? Because you are intentionally building 2 weeks of vacation, of unplugged time into your plan from day one. Burnout is the #1 killer of growth. You have to treat your rest as a strategic imperative, not a luxury. Now for your action plan, keep it simple. First, what are 3 new things you are going to start doing? Things that will actually move the needle. Second, what are 3 things you are going to stop doing completely? The time wasters, the energy vampires. And third, sometimes it's not about stopping, but refining. What's one process you can make just 10% better? This framework right here creates instant forward motion.
Let's move into our final and maybe most important section. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot achieve breakthrough growth all by yourself in a vacuum. It's impossible. Your success is going to be directly tied to the quality of the people you surround yourself with.
First things first, you got to get forensic with your numbers. Where is your business actually coming from? When you track this, it tells you exactly where to focus your time, your energy, and your money. So, for example, if 40% of your business comes from past clients, but you're only spending 5% of your marketing budget on them, well, you've just found a massive opportunity for growth. And building your support team is a strategic act. It's not just about having friends. You need a diverse group. You need a manager for guidance, a peer who's in the trenches with you and just gets it, an advisor for that high-level strategy, and this one's crucial, someone completely outside your industry. They're the ones who will challenge your assumptions and keep you from getting stuck in an echo chamber. So let's end with this. I want you to close your eyes for a second and picture it. It's 1 year from today. You're relaxing, maybe sitting by a fire. What will you be most proud of having accomplished? And I want you to think bigger than just the numbers. Think about the impact you made, the personal growth, the challenges you smashed through. Let that feeling right there be the true north for your entire plan.